أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. سل إماما عاش في العلم دهورا ودهور، يطلب العلم ببذل حتى ضمته البحور. سل إماما عاش في العلم دهورا ودهور، يطلب العلم ببذل حتى ضمته البحور. صابرا في العلم صبرا حتى سموه الصبور، يخرج العلم بفأل مثل ريحان الزهور. صابرا في العلم صبرا حتى سموه الصبور، يخرج العلم بفأل مثل ريحان الزهور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. كن إذا سموك اسما لتكن مثل الحضور، كن رفيقا كن عظيما كن كما تلك الصقور. كن إذا سموك اسما لتكن مثل الحضور، كن رفيقا كن عظيما كن كما تلك الصقور. راقيا بالعلم نحو النجم مزدان شكور، رافضا كل التدني رافضا نفس الغرور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. ابن مسعود فقيه علم أحيا القفور، فإذا أعطاك رأيا كان سهما في النحور. ابن مسعود فقيه علم أحيا القفور، فإذا أعطاك رأيا كان سهما في النحور. وعلي ثم بالدين معاذ لا يبور، اقرأوا التاريخ تروي عنه أفواه سطور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. إن سألت عن إمام أو فقيه في الأمور، ابن عباس ترنم وسيبقى في الصدور. إن سألت عن إمام أو فقيه في الأمور، ابن عباس ترنم وسيبقى في الصدور. فهو كالشمعة تذهب حتى تأتينا بنور، ساهر بالليل علم وبأوقات سحور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور. إذ بكى النبي يوما سمعا صوتا جهور، يا أبي كم روت عنك الليالي والعصور. إذ بكى النبي يوما سمعا صوتا جهور، يا أبي كم روت عنك الليالي.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome back and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It has been a while, and subhanallah, almost 5 weeks, the month of Ramadan and the week after. Obviously we are now in month of Shawwal, and believe me, we've been working very hard to make sure that even after we bring the best programs, discussions, lectures, talks, intellectual engagement, creating awareness for this ummah, playing the role of, inshallah, a leadership that will rise or create an aware movement, a group of people that are aware of what is happening to this ummah and what is happening in the world. So today, inshallah, we are going to discuss a very famous film that has come out of India called the Kashmir Files. Many of you may be aware, especially if you are from the subcontinent, whether you're from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and other regions of the world. I was listening today that even that this movie or this film is being played in some of the universities in the West, including Harvard, Yale, and others. That so there is a type of propaganda. There's a type of awareness that even from the side of the Indian government that is being created in order to facilitate what I think is a coming genocide of the Muslims in India. Whether we like it or not, brothers and sisters, the signs of a coming genocide are looming on the wall. Whether it begins today or tomorrow is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, but it seems very clear that we are inching towards this type of events taking place with the Muslims in India. So to discuss this, inshallah, we have two activists that we have brought. Both are from India, both have lived and have been very active in the da'wah scene, both Abdul Muqit and we have Brother Ata. Welcome, Brother Abdul Muqit and Ata.
On the program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so let's get into this thing. First of all, welcome to the show. Inshallah, this will be a very engaging discussion. Obviously a topic that is very near and dear to us, especially being from India, being from, seeing and observing what's happening in India. And some of you brothers actually are in and out of India too. So let's begin with this. Why Kashmiri Files? Why now? What's this issue? I mean, it's been going on for a year now, I think. But what is the reason for this type of a movie is usually used by states to form some type of an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So why now?
I mean,
and why this movie? Let's put it this way.
Right. I think first of all, as you mentioned in your introduction, movies are a tool, a propaganda tool that's used by the government to shape the opinion, public opinion. And movies, just like the movies in the Hollywood have been portraying Muslims as the bad guys, and kind of a justification for the wars that they have been launching in the Muslim world. The same way the Indian government has always, and this is true for governments before the BJP government, which was the Congress government as well, where they, always had movies where Muslims were portrayed as, enemies of the state, terrorists who, kidnap people, kill people, and those kind of, the narrative has been set, and that justifies for all the oppression that has been launched on the Muslims. So that's been generally happening. But now this movie, the Kashmiri Files, has to be understood in the context of the last 2 years, what has happened, right? In August 2019, we saw the removal of Article 370, which was, which granted a special status for Kashmir, recognized it as a disputed area. And it also gave certain restrictions on what the Indian government can do in that area. And with its removal, it now allowed greater control for the Indian government, and it has proceeded with its policies of, allowing, allowing people from outside Kashmir to go in and buy and own properties and businesses in Kashmir. So there is an attempt to change the demographics of that region. And of course, this is aside from the continued, occupation by the Indian Army and the oppression that it launches on the Muslims over there.
Brother Atha, Brother Atha, to continue what Brother Abdul Muqit is saying, what is the Kashmir Files about? What is it that this this movie or this film portrays, because originally it's supposed to be a documentary. I guess that's what they wanted it to be originally, that it comes out as a documentary, and obviously then BJP supposedly has given them a tax cutoff. And then at the same time they've allowed it, even the international movies, like films, are giving them space to be played in other parts of so what's the movie about? What's the film actually about? What is it trying to portray? And what are the consequences of this in the coming days?
All right. First of all, thank you so much for giving us a chance to speak. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for your question, Shirazi. And this is, something that you could see from, the culture and the maturity of BJP at this level. I'm hearing some echo. So if you can, okay, can you hear me clearly?
Hold on, can you? Okay, I think maybe it's. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Okay, it's better. It's better now. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this movie is basically in short, I would say it's a crocodile tears. And you can see in the stage, those actors who played this movie is about gaining the support of international powers, projecting themselves as someone that has been bullied and have been kicked out from their own land by the Muslims. So this is the intent, like to project like on an international level about the oppression that Muslims are doing against the Hindu minority. However, if you look at the numbers given by India today, it's only 399 Pandits that were killed versus the Muslims that were killed. Their numbers is 15,000. So this outcry of 400 people, which all of us acknowledge, right? When there is a mishap, when there is a issue that has been exploited by the state, then the lives have been lost. But they're playing this game on the international media, utilizing this movie, covering some of the aspect actually, to project as if the Muslims have knives in their hand and they're just running after cutting the throats of the people. It's very gruesome film. Those who haven't watched, I would encourage them actually to go and watch, the Muslims, to see what is being propagated against you. This is a programming that is being done to make you look bad, after which the slaughter of the Muslims will start in India. So they must go and watch the small clips that is being played. And you cannot see it because the blood, the gruesome...
See, the question, anybody can take this, but see, the thing is that from what I understand is that the movie, so yes, there was the killing of the 399 out of, and then 15,000 Muslims killed. But what they're saying is that the killing of the Pandits, those who supposedly, well, they left Kashmir area and to mainland India, let's say, and the reality was that the governor of the time himself had asked the Pandits to leave the area because they were going to do these operations and they did not want Hindus to be killed. So these Pandits that actually left this area was a protection given to them, but it was put it off as due to the fighting by the so-called militants. This is what happened. So is this what has happened? Is this why aren't we being told the truth? Is what I'm, if you're going to investigate this movie or film.
The narrative, it's all about the narrative, and the Indian government is the one who is setting the narrative, right? So, the Indian army has been involved in so many criminal acts in Kashmir, and it cannot be discounted that they might be behind some of the killings of the Kashmir Pandits themselves. And there are some disputes about disputed reporting about that. We don't know for sure what exactly happened. And I think that's what it is, right? I mean, they are trying to use these events, amplifying what happened to the Kashmir Pandits in order to justify what they are doing with the Muslims in Kashmir and in India in general. And that's the whole, goal out of this Kashmir Files. Now, I think if you want to understand,
what they want to do in India in general.
Exactly. And that's and you can see the effect, the result after the movie, how there have been attacks against Muslims and increased mob. Previously you had mob lynchings, but now you have the police, a organ of the state, a tool of the state, being involved in open attacks against Muslims. You see the demolition of Muslim businesses, houses by the government.
You're talking about this Pura. What's the name of the area now?
Yes, Jahangir Pura.
Jahangir Pura area. Okay.
They are
the bulldozing
also
of the homes
other,
of the Muslims.
Yes. And this is and they are arresting Muslim youth and entering into the homes of Muslims, arresting the youth and without any charges. And so all these things have become now openly being done across different states in India. However, if you want to understand what happened, I want to just talk a little bit more on the issue of what's going on in Kashmir, because one thing we need to understand is that, as Muslims, we are very clear, the killing of innocents, we have, there is no justification for the killing of innocents deliberately, right? However, what is going on in Kashmir, or what happened with the Kashmiri Pandits, has to be understood in the context of the entire history, the bloody history of Kashmir from the time of the British occupation, colonialism, and the partition, what happened at that time, with the international powers, Britain, and after that America, maintained Kashmir as an open wound that would allow them to manipulate and control what happens in that region, because Kashmir is in a very strategic location. It borders India, Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan. So it is very important for these powers to be able to get involved whenever they would want to into this region. And so they have kept this conflict going. And they have utilized both India and Pakistan to keep this region, and it's very well known that it is the most highly militarized region in the world, where almost, actually more than 1 million Indian soldiers have been deployed. According to reports, 1 soldier per 12 people in Kashmir. So this is ongoing from, since independence, and especially from the late 1980s through the 90s to early 2000 until now. So this is, and the primary, the brunt of all of this has been the Muslims. According to reports, over the entire period of the conflict since 1990, more than 100,000 Muslims have been killed. And the kind of atrocities the government has done, the army has performed, you can arrest Muslims without any evidence, and they have been given a license to kill, basically, Muslims in Kashmir. And the use of the pellet guns, it's important for us to highlight the brutality of the occupation, where
we'll come to that. We'll come to that, because
can deliberately maim human beings have been deployed by the Indian army. And this is all being happening. So to understand the issue of the Kashmiri Pandits, yes, it's one chapter in a long list of chapters of oppression in that region. And this is because of the nature of the conflict, which is being maintained by the international powers in order to control that region.
So, Brother Atha, look, from going with what Brother Abdul Mukhit is saying, the 370 is removed. And now, so what happens? What happens as far as the role of Pakistan in this, the role of Afghanistan, if any, and then the role of United States, and what role that United States wants India to play? Where this 370, does it limit India, or does it free India to continue doing what it wants and more?
Absolutely. The whole intention of why to remove the Article 370 was based on getting more access in Kashmir. And this whole movie covers a few chapters, right? It covers the Shaheen Bagh, it covers the JNU, and it covers the Article 370, which was a hot topic from past 3 to 4 years. So they wanted to basically inject in the mind of the people the thought that they believe, and they want everyone to follow the same script. Now with
no, because you know, one of the things that Abdul Mukhit mentioned was that, look, by this whole issue of Article 370, it because, you know, for instance, if you're talking about one soldier, what was the number? One soldier per 3 people.
12.
Per 12 people. So is this to build India to be able to face China, so that this area could be relieved? Is that why 370 is let go of?
So, can I answer that, Brother Shiraz?
Whoever wants to answer, go ahead.
So, you know, the fact, you know, the Article 370, it's now very clear that it could not have been, India could not have made that move on Article 370 without, you know, acknowledgement from Pakistan of its inaction. And it's now very clear that Pakistan was somehow, has given agreement to this move from India. So now I think what America, which is the one who is the one who controls this region, whether within the Pakistan army or with the Modi government, which is also pro-America, there is a goal of building India as a counterweight to China, and that requires that the entire Indian army or military, which has been dedicated to fight or to control the region of Kashmir, needs to be, the situation in Kashmir has to be brought under control, so that that army can be shifted for other purposes. And that's the region. That's why you see what's happening with after Article 370 is to allow India to consolidate its control over Kashmir. And also allowing it to focus or free up its forces to be used wherever they would want, wherever you know, America, for instance, in this case, would like to use them.
So okay. So now, what would be the next move? I mean, now India, for instance, let's say you have, I guess let's go from the propaganda perspective here. I mean, you have the so-called Godi media. And then you have this whole issue with films coming out day and night. Then it's the bulldozing of homes and the masajid. Brother Ata, being from UP, what do you see? I mean, you are close to these areas where all of this is happening.
Yes, Shirazi, and this is the unfortunate situation that the Muslims are facing at this moment in India. And this is only going to grow. You know, it's becoming so hostile that people don't even want to talk about it. Like, you know, when you try to say, it's like, you know, it's famous about Arab rulers that the walls have ears. The same goes in UP. When these open killing is happening, the sword that has been waved in the air, and how the brutality of some of the killings that you see of the Muslims, it is becoming like intensified. And as the time is passing by, as the BJP is getting closer to its goals and the way it is accomplishing its motives and projecting itself like to the Hindu crowd, it is definite that Muslims are going to be crushed. And that is what is happening at the moment.
So let me. So here's the thing: when the Rohingya thing happened, when Rohingya were massacred, and then there was Americans were thinking, they didn't really intervene much other than saying, okay, ethnic cleansing, and finally, I think just within the last 6 months, they finally called it a genocide and things like this. And that was after kind of like a Taliban takeover. I don't know what the real plan was, but at the time, they didn't want to say any. I guess they didn't want to say something too openly against China, because saying something to Burma was intervening in Chinese backyard. Now, has India been given a free hand because America needs India as a counterbalance to China? Does that mean that doing what they want to do in India, has this become even more easier? Anyone can take
Of course.
this.
Yeah, and Shiradi, I want to add before Brother Muqit gives his answer, and I want to look at from the angles of the Muslims, right? I remember like when Biden was elected, all the Muslims were sharing a hadith that he quotes, as if the Trump was the evil and he was the friend of Modi, and the this Sleepy Joe, when he comes, then he will have ayat of the Quran hanging all across the US. But we see the opposite happening. With all his hadith that he was quoting, his action is opposite of that. What happened in Pakistan, the whole world knows about it. There's no need to talk about that subject.
No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point that needs to be highlighted, yes.
Yes, so indeed, America's interest is one, whether it's Trump, whether it's Republican or Democrats, they have to utilize India to counter the China. And India has certain interest, and America is not going to speak against it, or they will only shake hand with them to do whatever they have to do in order to counter China. So this is they both are in bed, America and India, when these actions are happening against Muslims. And America is not alien to this. They have destroyed the lives upon lives within past 20 to 30 years. And the same tactic has been played by India. It is the same tactic that was played during the war of Bangladesh, where, and this was something a soldier told me, Indian soldier that served during that period, that we dressed up as Pakistani to kill and create chaos. And this is the same thing happening in Kashmir, that they prepare people, or they themselves do these actions and then they put it onto the Muslims to further their agenda. Go ahead, Brother Mo.
Yeah, I think the Modi government, which is actually a wing of the RSS, which is the ideological, the force behind the BJP. It's a very, it has its own agenda, and it is calling for and it has been calling for a Hindu Rashtra, and this is before even independence, and they have been always there. However, today I think they serve as a useful pawn in the American agenda. And that's why you have seen the rise of the BJP through the 90s and the 2000s, and up until the coming of Modi and the consolidation of the Hindutva forces in over most of India now. And you see it it's growing even into the south of India. So, and this ideological force, they are not limited to India of today, but it also includes Pakistan, and it goes beyond Afghanistan. So, one of the things that America wants India to be is a regional superpower, and it wants Bangladesh and Pakistan to be subservient to India. And this is what it has been trying to achieve. And you can see clearly with all the events that are happening, that this is what they are to create more chaos and more conflicts in Muslim lands, like in Pakistan, and weakening the army in Bangladesh, or creating groups in Afghanistan to create all these conflict on the border with Afghanistan and Pakistan. All of those things, India plays a very key role in this. Now, internally, what India is doing, or the Modi government or the RSS is doing, is part of this overall strategy. And along these lines is what they are doing to the Muslims, because it allows them to consolidate the vote bank, their vote bank, because they are not able to solve real problems. So it puts always around elections, you will see that they would put the issue of Muslims and the threat of the Muslims in the front, so that no other issue is discussed except this. And this is how now it has become like permeated, like as you mentioned, the Godi media. It has permeated across most of the media outlets, where it's become very open in terms of their attacks on Islam, Muslims, and even it's normalizing the kind of things that they're doing to the Muslims in terms of the hijab, right? We saw how the hijab had been banned and openly called for by these politicians. And
so what happens here? I mean, the question, I guess, is to both of the speakers here. Yani, what is in the mind of the average Muslims? I mean, there is, let's say, when you call home, or when you are discussing with the Muslims back home, when you, I know Brother Atta was saying that people don't even want to discuss this because walls have ears, but what is the response of average Muslims on the ground? What are they feeling? Or because the reason I'm asking, I guess, is there seems to be different responses depending on where you are in India. State to state, people are, if you're in Hyderabad, it seems like the Muslims are still sleeping. They're still worried about where they're going to go and have their biryani. And then you have certain areas where they're facing, their homes are being completely, I guess, destroyed. Is this, am I making, I mean, is this right? Do you feel that way, or I'm not seeing the reality the right way?
Indeed, Shirazi, the situation of Indian Muslim is, as you explained, they are sleeping, and they are, I call them sleeping giants, because they have the potential. It's not that they don't have the potential, but they have been taught by certain ulama to think in certain way. That's why they close themselves in a closet, and they think that without the Muslims outside, they can be safe and secure, and nothing is going to happen. The court will give the decision. The court is something they trust. The system is something they believe in. So this is going to be problematic, because if you remember, a scholar was caught and put in jail. He's still in jail simply because he was preaching Islam. So this is the same thing that is going to happen to the rest of the Muslims. They will be behind the bar without doing any, they're doing something that is allowed within the constitution, within the law, within the, but how they're being manipulated, right? So this is one thing. The second thing that the Muslims of India are doing is, which is part of it actually, is this trusting the courts. For example, when the issue of Babri Masjid happened, they thought that they would resolve this issue by going into Supreme Court. And I had many people that I discussed with, and they had hope, we're going to take the this case to Supreme Court, and they will have in their favor. And when the decision came out, and I asked them, they said we had no hope, like we had no hope that they're going to give this decision in the favor of Hindus. So what happens to the justice? What happens to the to your security? It's all like a foam. There is nothing tangible. It's only a word that can be changed overnight. So indeed, Muslims of India are sleeping, and they must wake up if they want their protection, if they want their safety. They need to link themselves with the international Muslims. We are not the people who live in the cage. We are, Shaheen it's not Shaheen Bagh, but we are Shaheen that flies in the sky. If we cage ourselves in this so-called India, and we are so-called Indians, imagine even a Hindu has a bigger objective than you, man. A Hindu says, I want to project and rule a bigger chunk of land. while Muslim, he's satisfied explaining that he is a true Indian. I was just listening a speech right before this lecture, and he was a Muslim guy talking in assembly, and trying to prove how good and how loyal they are to India. It doesn't matter how loyal you are to India; they're gonna put you behind the bar. Secondly, the
So let me
like
ask
the
you. Go ahead. The thing I was going to ask, this whole issue, also Shaheen Bagh seems to have become alive again. There's a lot going on in Shaheen Bagh. They're sending and resending the bulldozers over and over and over. So what is so important about this area? I mean, what makes it such a spark every time Shaheen Bagh, I guess the Jamia and all of these things? What is so important about these areas?
See, the Muslims in India are not a small number. They are, according to even the government statistics, the Indian government statistics, they are more than 200 million. What has been happening with the Muslims is not new. From the day one, I should say it's in the DNA of the Indian state was to marginalize the Muslims. And you can see very clearly through different policies. We can go through that in details, but I don't. Even if we set aside the discussion, actually, what I see is that the state has failed to win the hearts and minds of the Muslims, and I think what you see today.
Do they want to win our hearts and minds? Are they looking to win our hearts and minds?
This is what the goal was, to secularize the Muslims. And that's why you see all these, like the brother Atta was talking about, most of the voices, public voices that you hear, or the institutions, like, we talk about, there's a term for them, institutions, right? That means they are part of the system. They are institutionalized. And this is what the politicians, whether Muslim politicians or ulama, that you hear in the mainstream media represent. And they have constructed myths like, believe in the constitution, believe in the judiciary, believe in these things, and voting in election. This is exactly what they have been preaching to the Muslims for the last 70 years, right? Or since independence. But now what you are seeing is that these myths are being busted. As Brother Atta pointed out, right? The Babri Masjid issue was very clear how the judiciary even, is biased. And we saw with the hijab ban being held up by the, even though it was a state court, but still it is the judiciary that has upheld, and it will set a precedence to be applied in other places. So what it has shown to the Muslims is that neither the constitution nor the judiciary, which is supposed to is a protector of the constitution, are with you. They always the issue of the police was always there, that they have been against the Muslims. And we have seen that through the decades of oppression, right? Through the imprisonment of innocent Muslims without any charges for 20, 30, 40 years. Most of them are acquitted after that period without, with no charges. So all of those things, have happened in the past history. And so today, when the Muslims are looking at it, they are seeing these things are myths. And I see, at least in the conversations that are going on amongst the Muslims, is, they are questioning the history. And I have been part of some forums and all those things where, I have seen the conversations going on about how the history has been, rewritten in a biased way to present Muslims in a negative way, even though, we know from the history of what the Muslim contribution to India has been, or, how it brought India to become one of the world's biggest economies at that time under Islam. And in terms of unification of India, and in terms of removal of the oppression that the people in India were facing before the Muslim rule. So all those things are being questioned. So, and then it's becoming very clear that, the narrative, and today we live in a globalized world. right? So Muslims are exposed to ideas that are being discussed by Muslims everywhere else, and which is that Islam requires an authority for it to be implemented. And a lot of things about the the even the rich history of the ulama in India has become part of the discussion. If you go back prior to the independence, in the most wide movement against the British occupation was the Khilafat movement, and which was also calling for the the protection of the Khilafah and its preservation. So all those things, what the ulama were involved, these were the goals that the ulama were striving at that time. But
So
over
let
a
me.
period, they had to go through a U-turn. They made U-turns.
So two
To
questions.
the point
Here's the thing. I have two questions here. One, again, anyone can take this, but Brother Atta was saying that look, the Muslims have been told that they should not be looking outside of India. Just look at like someone gets up and says in the parliament that look, he's trying to prove his Indianness. But are the Muslims of India, do they have an ideological leaning? I mean, yes, I understand Islam, but Islam, what is Islam to them? What does it mean? What is Islam? I mean, is it, because the arguments that you guys, a lot of the points that you guys have presented, in order to actually have a point of view, you need an ideological point of view first. Do the masses in India, I mean, let's say, what percentage of Muslims of India actually carry an ideological thought? Is Islam just a religion? Or is it actually an ideological movement, an ideological, a deen that is going to solve their problems? That's number one. Number two, what role can they play now, today, in what is coming to them? I mean, do they realize what's coming even? So two questions. Ideologically, where are they? Ideologically, where are they? Muslims of India, where are they? Where their ulama? I understand. I'm seeing them having dinners and lunches in the top 5-star hotels, in the with the enemies of those people who are bulldozing the houses of the Muslims. But ideologically, where are the Muslim masses of India?
Yes, Brother Shirazi, a couple of points I wanna mention about that. To be honest with you, I don't think, yes, to about think something big, to achieve something big, you need to be ideological. But to think about yourself, you don't have to be ideological. Look about the Hindus, what ideology he has. Still, he has a project. His project is Akhand Bharat. Whether it's achievable or not achievable, actually, it is not achievable without the Muslims.
I mean, would you call it a Hindu? Is a Hindu? Okay, hold on. Is a Hindu a capitalist? Is he coming from a capitalistic point of view? Does he have an ideology?
The ruling Hindu is capitalist.
Okay, so they are projecting an ideology, while we, on the other hand, are coming from a religious point of view.
Yeah, look,
correct.
Shirazi,
Yes,
I mean, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. No, Brother Atta, go ahead.
Yeah,
then we'll come back to Brother.
What I was saying, Shirazi, is to have, like, the general public does not understand about capitalism and communism and Islam. There is only three deen that exist in this world. One is capitalism, which confuses about the creator, the communism that rejects about the creator, the Islam that have confidence and 100% surety about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's only three deen exist. And everyone is under one of these three umbrella. So whether or not the general public might not understand these concepts, these ideas, right? But general Hindu, he understands that he's looking for Akhand Bharat. They have been given this lollipop, correct? And they have been surrounded by the Muslims. If America cannot defeat Afghanistan, how they think that they're going to take over and make India bigger? Which is not possible without the Muslim. It was the Muslim that made India bigger, made Akhand Bharat. It's still today the Muslims are the one who are going to deliver Akhand Bharat. So they have to come down to the Muslims, not to America. First thing. The second thing that is whether or not they're ideological, I don't think India will act the way it is acting with the Muslim youth if they didn't understand what they're doing. What I mean by that is India has becoming harsher and harsher upon youth. And I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago when there was no lectures of Dr. Israr Ahmed, in the phones of every youth. But today, the story is different. That's why they brought his channel down. That every one of them, they started looking about these things. The kids that their parents used to watch Bollywood movies, the kids, they no longer watch Bollywood movies. So there is, of course, there is a change that is happening, and that is why India is targeting upon youth purposely. Why they are going after JNU? Why they're going after the Aligarh Muslim University? Why they're going after the youth that are being educated? Because they understand once they get educated about Islam, their history, they will quickly understand that what was taught to them in our previous generation, which is Hindi hai hum watan hai Hindustan hamara. All of these garbage will be gone, from their mind, and they will start adopting and connecting their roots to their ideology, which is Islam, which is a complete way of life, which is not like Hinduism, that is a religion. Islam is a deen, and youth have started understanding this. Otherwise, India would not be as harsh as they are today. And this is the quote from the Prime Minister, I'm saying, that India does not have any Al-Qaeda, any terrorist. Why he is saying in front of the American president and is because he wants to ensure that there is no root exists in India that can become like that have a revolutionary ideas. So everybody they're trying to portray. What happens is if they say there is no Al-Qaeda, no Taliban, no this, of course they're using this name to defame the Muslims, but they're saying so that the youth do not go on the side of Islam, in which they think Islam as a complete and comprehensive way of life. So if they use the name that has been defamed and created and published by America to defame the Muslims and kill the Muslims and destroy countries upon countries, all they have to do is simply use that name.
So here,
I think that the youth is learning. Youth is involved into this understanding of Islam as a comprehensive and a total way of life.
I was, do you have something to say, Brother Abdul Mukhid, on the same issue? I mean, do you agree, disagree? What?
No. I think Brother Atta covered the points I was making. But I think a general point, we need to understand that, Muslims in India, like anywhere else, have been living under 70 years under secularism, under a state which one of the objectives of it is to disconnect Muslims from their history. They have been disconnected from their history, from the ideological aspects of Islam, how Islam provides solutions and what it means for it to be a way of life, right? When you say it's a way of life, it has to give solutions, and those solutions have to be in all aspects of our life.
Okay, hold on, guys. Hold on. There's a technical issue here. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. Because everything kind of went dark. Hold on, brothers, hold on.
Okay. I hope it's not from anyone. It's at your end, Shirazi?
Huh?
Is that at your end?
Hold on, 1 second. It's our side? Okay, they're working on the technical side on our side.
Okay. Do you want us to continue or?
No, hold on, just one moment. Because there's okay. Now we go to the. Okay, all right, we're back.
Okay.
This thing, somebody's hacking us. BJP is watching this. I'm playing. I was listening to Yasir Khadi this morning. I just wanted to. He was talking about this whole situation, and he was saying that even he was targeted. By the way, just for giving a lecture or a talk regarding the role of BJP in India. So it seems like these people, believe me, they're watching our shows. But to go back to this discussion, because we're gonna have to go to the questions, right? Is this are we taking questions? They're gonna continue on this. Okay. I asked this question yesterday to some of the brothers. We were talking about Pakistan. We had an interview yesterday regarding Pakistan and what's happening in Pakistan. Let me ask you guys this. Is there an Arab Spring possible in the subcontinent, except the Indian Spring or Muslim, whatever name you want to give it? Is it possible where, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Kashmir, Muslims of India, can there be work that could be done that this type of an idea takes root in the hearts and minds of the Muslims? Although I understand the Arab Spring was more for, it seemed, it became more for, shelter and food, but an ideological idea, can it take roots in the hearts of the Muslims of the subcontinent?
Yeah, I mean, look at, it is true for the entire world, but more specifically, even for the Muslim world, we see that Muslims are living under failed states. And, none of their problems are being solved. In fact, the problems are just increasing. And you are seeing at the same time a stronger call, a growing call for the re-establishment of the Khilafah, right? And and this is exactly what is needed for the entire world, right? The rise of a state which is ideological. It's able to take care of the affairs of its people and be able to take care of the affairs of everyone else. And this is where the only way Muslims can take themselves out of the miserable conditions that they live under, where they don't have peace, security, economic situation, you name it, right? We have problems, social, you name it. We have so many problems going on, and it's becoming quite apparent that everything that we have tried has failed. And only the return of Islam as an ideology, as a way of life, and you see the growing confidence in the Muslims about its solutions. And when we look at the collapse of capitalism around the world, and the failure of and its lack of ability to solve problems, right? And this is where I think even this is the only way the Muslims in India will be able to come out of the situation that they are in. And this is how Islam was brought to India. If you think about it, right? I mean, how did Islam came to the Indian subcontinent? It was through the Muslim armies. And these are the ones who brought Islam, rooted Islam in this region. This is in fact, if you go back into the 1920s, not too far, go into the 1920s, the scholars of the Muslims, they were actually working on this solution to get rid of the British occupation. And that's why you see the call for the Khilafat movement, right? I mean, this was to make sure the entity that made the Ummah connected together continues to exist, even if in its weakest forms, so that at some point it might be able to revive and be able to provide that force, ideological force, for the Muslims to bring back Islam.
Brother Atha, on this question, I'm the reason I want you guys to expand on this is that we have to take questions. So I'm going to go to the questions, but I have one before. I guess I've been asking you guys anyway, but I have one more. If you can you expound on the idea of what is an ideology? Because maybe because I was, we're kind of using it freely, and everybody, I think maybe us here understand what that means. And let's say if the Muslims of India are watching this, and let's say this is shared all over India, which we really hope to do somehow, that we get into inshallah, we're working on that. But if the Muslims of India are watching this and you're saying that, look, even a Hindu, whether even a Hindu is talking about Akhand Bharat, meaning he doesn't know what an ideology is, but he's been given something so that he can have an objective in life. So what is the objective of Islam as an ideology, and what does it want to achieve? And why is it that the Muslims are responsible to achieve this? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, but
it's a loaded question actually that cannot be answered just in a few sentences. But I'll try to briefly cover it, so this way, our audience can understand. The ideology, in a basic, if I can break it down in a simple form, is any idea that has the concept, the ideas, and the methods of its implementation. So, for example, it gives a complete worldview about something. So, for example, when you study about capitalism, which is actually more known as democracy, it gives you a worldview, and it gives a method of its implementation, how it's going to execute and implement. Same with the communism. Communism comes with the set of ideas, and then it has its method of implementation, which makes it something that can be functional in this world. The idea of Islam comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has the correct concepts, correct ideas, and its method of implementation showed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And among these three ideologies that exist, which is, I'm going to simplify it for the people: democracy, communism, and Islam. We know that communism is gone, and people hate communism, but people still love democracy because they do not probably see Islam as a system as of yet. But alhamdulillah, more and more people are looking Islam as an ideology, which gives us its only system that guarantees the protection of other people. Communism, when it comes, it vanishes, like the religion is vanished. When capitalism comes, it exploits the way it is being, the minorities has been exploited in Sri Lanka, in Burma, India, and elsewhere. And even in America, the minorities gets exploited. So this is the nature of capitalism. Islam is the only ideology that gives a comprehensive system of how to protect the life of others. Before it protects the life of the Muslims, it gives order to protect the life of the others. For example, I was just reading yesterday, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he dispatched the army to Syria, he gave them order to the protection of the life of other people. Many people, many Christians and Jews are living in Arab countries until today just because they have given a good lifestyle within Islam. And that's what we have to understand, that Islam is not something that you go pray namaz and Jummah and wear topi and kurta and that's it. No. Islam is a complete and comprehensive system revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an ideology that gives answer about what comes before this world was created. Why are we here? And what is afterlife? So it gives an answer for every question in life.
Let's take some questions here. First question, go ahead, Brother Victor. Question from Yusuf Chaudhry. Because if Muslims in India thought Islam as a mere religion, then the Indian government won't care. Do you agree? I guess you kind of spoke, Brother Atha was hinting on this, but go ahead.
Yes, of course. I mean, Muslims of India are, like we saw the Khilafah conference happening in India, which was banned and put to an end. This is the clear indication that they're watching us very closely. It's not that they're far from us, and they understand that how Islam can unite both Hindu and Muslim, and it was, one of the superpower that existed in the world. So when you talk about Mughals were like one body of the one ummah. So you had like Turks at one place, you can consider that as a head. An arm was extending in India, that was Mughal Empire, but it was still one body that was functioning. So very well the Indian state, and also when you discuss with youth are hungry about these ideas. And the whole region the problems that they see, they're looking for the solution, and they cannot find the solution except Islam. And this is what the Indian government cannot understand. How, with all the effort they have their media, they have their Bollywood, from which they can secularize the Muslim. Name a person name of Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan has like murti in his house, idol in his house. Is still he's not been accepted by the Hindu right wings, right? So all of these things, when you see, you can only come to conclusion that there are in India a large number of youth. It's not a small number that are studying Islam, studying the system of Islam, how it will govern and protect the life of Hindu first, and they will be the one who will lead the world. So I don't think that's it's happening just because India wants to bother Muslims. No, India knows that the Muslims who are studying, they're reaching to their goals.
Second question. Go ahead. Why do you think organized efforts like Khilafah movement took a U-turn? Anybody can take that. Go ahead.
That is what I was hinting at, which is the institutionalization, right? And the attempt to secularize Muslims requires institutions that will uphold secularism in front of the Muslims, and these you see these mainstream ulamas that you see on in the media represent this or they are I would say the protectors of secularism, or making sure that the Muslims are still believing in secularism. And the U-turn is the same institutions, or like, for example, you take the issue, the Jamaat Ulema Hind, about whom Brother Shirazi you were referring to. This organization, when it was first formed in the 1920s, it's one of its most prominent goal was to bring back the implementation of the Islamic Sharia. But today, when you look at its own objective, and its leaders, what they say. By the way, we have to differentiate. Not all ulama are in the same boat, and we have to differentiate what in those that we see coverage in the mainstream media versus those who are sincere. And of course, the revival that you see in the Indian subcontinent cannot be without its ulama. So we have to make sure that we don't generalize it to all ulama. But these people, if you look at it, they have openly stated that they don't want the rule of Islam back. Yeah, and they have been calling for, like the term that, like the Ganga Jamuna Tehzeeb, that we have a culture of coexistence, as if, and that coexistence means the melting of the Muslims into to accepting, believing that we believe in the same God, we have the same. It doesn't matter, you might believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's okay even if you believe in something else. You can believe in the Quran, but it's also okay if you believe in some other book. This kind of fudging of the haqq and the batil. This is mixing of the haqq and the batil that's going on, is part of secularism, and this is being promoted through these scholars. And that's what I was referring to, is the U-turn. When you look at, and subhanAllah, it reminds me of, when you look at the Muslims prior to independence or prior to the abolishment of the Khilafah in 1924, it was very clear, unanimous among the Muslims, that we need to have a Imam, a Khalifa, around which our affairs have to be unified. To the point, at that time, if anyone disputed about the existence of the Khalifa, there were fatwas given that you cannot even perform janazah for that person. That was so well known amongst the Muslims about the issue of the Khilafah. But you look now, 70 years down the line, you see a slipping of the constant violation of the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and its sanctities. and to the point now that we have been reduced to have, the kuffar enter into our homes, right? And this is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that, when he said that when the beads of Islam would come open, the first one would be of ruling, and the last one would be of the salah. And each time a bead comes out, the Muslims, instead of trying to go back and put back the first all the beads together and tie it up, they rush to hold on to what is remaining. And this is what we have ended up into because of this not going back to the first issue, the most vital issue, which was to re-establish the rule of Islam, through which we are able to implement Islam across all aspects and make it, whether it is in our education, whether it is in our economy, whether it is in our social life as a society, or even in the taking care of the people who don't believe in Islam. And this is what is missing today, right? So if you look at what's being taught to Muslims, their history is misrepresented. They are kept ignorant about Islam, and on top of it, there are ulamas who are teaching kufr as it's Islam.
But I thought that just the last question to you here. Is there any other questions here? There is. No. Here's the thing. You said a statement. You said that, look, the Muslims of India have to look outside. They need to be to something to that effect. Again, the question is, I don't know if you saw what happened on the day of Eid. Between Indian army and the Pakistan army, the exchange of sweets and flowers that happened over the Eid day. Would it be naive for the Muslims to think that somebody is coming to help them in India, or do you mean something else? What is it that you mean to say that the Muslims of India need to look outside?
Yeah, this is I'm glad that you asked, and I get a chance to present that to the public. Is the Muslims of India, when they're looking outside, they're not looking for another agent to resolve their issue. When they look outside India, meaning that they connect with their brothers, the Muslims, outside India, they have this concept of one body. And we, it doesn't matter where the Muslims are residing. All the Muslims are feeling the pain of the Muslim in other region. So we are asking as a Muslim to connect with those Muslims. If they are traveling, the world is global today. So if they're living in the Middle East, it's time for them to communicate with the people that are living there. If they're working abroad, right, in Europe, it's time for them to communicate with the Muslims there. So connecting themselves doesn't mean that connecting with Imran Khan. Otherwise, it will be another U-turn. So all the roadmap that goes ahead takes a U-turn, except one. That is the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if Muslims are living, in Makkah, they're gonna connect the Muslims living outside of Makkah. So it is the same concept that the Muslims should have, that they are loyal to their brothers. And believe me, their brothers are crying for them. They want to reach to them to help them out. But there are these colonial setup that has been that has been chaining the Muslims and not allowing them to unite. So their hope is with their Muslim brothers, not with the not with the agent rulers.
Brother Muqeed, final thoughts on this, on the thoughts of Brother Atta. Just take maybe 30 seconds.
I think he mentioned it, Brother Atta. Just to make a point again on that, is that Muslims in general have realized that the rulers, they are in fact the ones who are chaining them back. And they don't have any hope in them. And all these exercises, like what you see, is even exposing them further, the rulers. Because the Ummah, wherever it is, it's moved by issue, is concerned with the issues of the Muslims. And you see it with whether when something happens in Kashmir, the kind of protest you see in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, or what happens in India. You see the protests that are happening in Pakistan or Bangladesh or anywhere in the Muslim world, or wherever Muslims are. And that is actually what forces these rulers to make statements in order to, calm the Muslims down. So you know that despite, we know that the Ummah is one, but it's missing that component that will practically bring this Ummah to start, working as one. And this is the institution of the Khilafah and the authority of the Khilafah, which will organize the Muslims into achieving the implementation of Islam. And this is what will be the protection for the Muslims, and also, to take care of the affairs of the world.
Brother Atha, 30 seconds, please.
Actually, I want to take the answer that question that was posed before, and that was a very interesting question. In India, if the Khilafah movement started, why it took U-turn? And like I mentioned, brothers, earlier, and this message is for the Muslims across the globe, that every path that you take that is not on the path of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will take U-turn. So you better start learning about the method that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam employed to help the Muslims. There are only three methods that can be thought out at this moment. One is the armed struggles against the state. One is voting in election. And the third one is the revolution of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that created the youth, a pool of youth that took over two superpowers in a very very little time. So we need to learn that the methodology of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If a scholar is telling you in India that participate in election because that's how you're gonna get power and you're gonna get help, believe me, by Allah, you will not be helped an inch. Just like you're not being helped today, your situation is worse than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and it will only get worse and worse until you realize that there is only one path that has to be taken, which is the non-violent path of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to revolutionize the whole Muslim Ummah, which will then be strong enough to tackle all of these issues from a central authority. Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah, with that, there's a lot of discussions. I think even on the last statement there could be more discussions itself. But inshallah, let's brothers and sisters, those who are watching, if you have any questions, you can put those questions up, and we'll try to answer them even in the coming days, bi'iznillahi ta'ala. We will continue this discussion every Friday on different topics, having different brothers coming, inshallah, bi'iznillahi ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, one thing we have to realize, first of all, actually, before I go, jazakumullah khairan, both to the speakers, both to you, Brother Muqit, and to Brother Atha. I know this is different timings for both of you guys, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan for coming. And inshallah, this will, as you know, this will not be the last time. We'll be discussing a lot of this, especially as changes happen on the ground in India, inshallah. And to the rest of the brothers and sisters, a message, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, He said, "In tansurullah yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum." It cannot get any more clear than this. "In tansurullah yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum." If you want the help and support and nusra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we have to give nusra to Allah Azza wa Jal, meaning to the nusra, to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Muslims of India, this is the time, brothers and sisters, that we wake up and we realize what it is that we are facing. It's important that you study what has happened to the Rohingya Muslims, to the Uyghur Muslims, to the Muslims of Kashmir, all of these areas that you are surrounded by. You have to look at what has actually happened to them and take ibrah, take lessons from this, and know what steps that need to be taken. Because no one, brothers and sisters, no one came for the support of the Rohingya. No one came for the support of Uyghur. No one came because those who are supposed to be coming for us to support us, that establishment is missing. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us, support us, use and use our skills in order to establish and do the work that is needed to bring the support that the Muslim Ummah needs. وجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
يا شبابا قد أنابا وإلى الله استجابا إن من يرجو الثواب لا يبالي بالصعاب في سبيل الله نمضي نبتغي رفع اللواء فليعد للدين مجد وليعد للدين عز منا الدماء